Hi everybody, I'm Brad. Welcome back to That Makes Sense, the YouTube channel about synthesizers, music, electronic music, 80s music, 90s music until now. We're continuing our Depeche Mode vinyl box set conversation. Last time I talked about Some Great Reward and the releases from that box set and talked about some of the differences between the US releases and the European releases. Some of the things that I like about these box sets, and also some of the things that I wish could have been better. And so, with that in mind, we're going to talk about the Black Celebration box sets today. It looks like that. But before I talk about Black Celebration and the 12-inch singles, I want to talk about what I really feel was missing, or somehow I wish they could have added them, because with the Construction Time box set, you had the single, the 12-inch single for Get the Balance Right, that we know wasn't on Construction Time again, so it is a non-album track, unless you want to count People Are People, the US album. So by the time Black Celebration came out in 86, the greatest hits catching up with Depeche Mode had come out in 85. And there were some great singles that came out specifically for that album, or at least one really good, I think, classic Depeche Mode song that most people would consider as a classic, and that is Shake the Disease. And this here is the European release of this. This one had Shake the Disease, a remix extended version, and then Flexible remix extended version. Both of these are like the 12-inch versions. They're the extended versions. I don't know if these were released in the US, at least as the 12-inch singles. They very well may have been. I just don't have the release. And as far as I know, there's nothing different on if there is a U.S. release of Shake the Disease, at least 12-inch wise. I don't know of any differences. Now this is the European version, and like I said, a lot of the European releases have a second record. So this is the second record for the Shake the Disease 12-inch. They call this the special edition, but let's take a look at that. Here we go. And then this is what it looks like on the back side. But here's what we have. We've got Shake the Disease, Edit the Shake. I'm trying to remember if that's like a 7-inch version, or if that's just I think it's just another kind of like a dub sort of remix. We've got a live version for Master and Servant, released in 1984. We've got Flexible pre-deportation mix, and then Something to Do metal mix. So I'm thinking about that. Okay, so this is interesting. I'll have to listen to this mix of Flexible. So number one, Master and Servant Live, that was not released with the CD singles back in the day, the CD single box sets. I think a lot of the live songs, especially from like the Broken Frame tour, most of those, a couple of them were released on the CD singles back in the day, but the Master and Servant I don't believe was. Now, Something to Do, this the metal mix, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a 12-inch version of Something to Do. It's a little bit different, and like I said, around 1984, some of the Depeche Mode remixes were actually starting to sound like not an extended version of the song, but they were, I would say, more experimental at the time. Some of the On US Sound mixes that I brought up before. Now, the one thing I want to talk about is the pre-deportation mix of Flexible. So again, Flexible was a track off of Catching Up with Depeche Mode. So these Shake the Disease records are not in the Black Celebration box set. They're not on the Some Great Reward box set. And I really think that's a lost opportunity for Mute Records. You know, you figure that if they could put Get the Balance Right in with Construction Time again, that box set, they could have figured out how to put Shake the Disease in with either Some Great Reward or Black Celebration. So here is the next single, again from Catching Up with Depeche Mode, and that is the 12-inch version from, it's called A Heart. So that's what it looks like, and this is what it looks like on the back. And this is, again, this is not in the Black Celebration box set. This is a special limited edition twin set that came out in the UK. And so there's actually 2 records on it. It's called A Heart Extended, Fly in the Windscreen Extended. It's called A Heart Slow Mix, and Fly in the Windscreen Death Mix. And these were all on the CD singles back in the day, in the box sets that came out like around 92. So especially with Fly in the Windscreen, which is a track on Black Celebration, I really wish they would have put this in with the Black Celebration box set. Even though it's originally from the Catching Up with Depeche Mode Greatest Hits. So you had the four new tracks with that Greatest Hits. You had Shake the Disease, Flexible, It's Called A Heart, and Fly in the Windscreen. Now here's a difference. I have the US output, or the US version of the It's Called A Heart 12-inch. And what's interesting about this is, number one is just one record. You don't have 2 records. Here's what it looks like on the back. But you have, It's Called A Heart Emotion remix, and It's Called A Heart Emotion dub, which those were not on the CD singles that were released back in 92 or 91, 92-ish. So those were US releases. Those were remixed by Joseph Watts. And then also you have the Flexible Deportation mix, which is kind of like a dancier version of Flexible. And I think that is different than the pre-deportation mix on the Shake the Disease record. So the European release of Shake the Disease has Flexible Pre-Deportation mix, remixed by Burt Bevins, and then Flexible Deportation mix, which doesn't say who remixed it. But yeah, so that is one difference. And then it has this, It's Called A Heart, a 7-inch version on the US release. So that definitely is a difference between the US release of It's Called A Heart and the UK release. All right, so getting into the Black Celebration box set, we have Stripped. And this, I think, is really cool. Again, these box sets, I believe, are based primarily off the UK releases. So I don't own the UK release, but it's got some of that Black Celebration print on the vinyl here, which is pretty cool. It's like you can feel that. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's like down here. And then on the back, here's what it looks like. It's just pretty much a solid black for the most part. But it has Strip, the Highland mix, but not Tonight, the extended remix that was in a movie soundtrack, but I cannot remember what the movie's name was. But Breathing in Fumes which is basically it's a remix of Stripped. Again, one of those more. It's not an extended version of Strip per se. The Highland mix is an extended version of Strip, but Breathing and Fumes is kind of like a more of experimental remix. It's got somebody talking in a vocoder using that robot voice. And then we've got Flying the Windscreen, the Quiet mix, and Black Day. So Black Day is a short little B-side, interesting B-side. And I think it may be the only original B-side song. No, I take that back. At least the original, it's a B-side, the only B-side from Black Celebration that has vocals. So that is the box set version. Now here, what I'm going to show you is the European release of Stripped, which this is from Germany, I believe. Yeah, from Germany. Now what's interesting about this is some of the differences. You don't have the patterns that you had on the box set release. This record's really special to me, and the reason why is this is the first Depeche Mode 12-inch that I ever bought. I even remember I bought it at Singing Dog Records in Columbus, Ohio. I would say probably around 1991 or 92. I was starting to be old enough where I could have a little bit of disposable income, and it was around the Ohio State campus area where Singing Dog Records was. And I would take the bus down to Ohio State campus, and there would be a string of record stores all down High Street, which is the main street. And I would get off the bus, I'd hit a record store, another record store. And so, yeah, Singing Dogs was one of the last record stores on the stop, on the record store tour. But basically, this has the same tracks as what is in the box set. But what I want to show you, which it's weird because when I bought this, I didn't know it was such a rare record, and now this record goes for a lot of money. But this is this blue marble right here, which really looks cool. And unfortunately, the box set records don't have that. I believe there's a couple other like limited edition Depeche Mode 12 inches that have this sort of marble color. I think they have a couple different ones, but I'm not sure exactly what they are. So if you know what they are, put it in the comments. I appreciate it. And these go for some money. So after looking at Stripped, the second single from Black Celebration is A Question of Lust. So here you go. And this has A Question of Lust, has the B-side Christmas Island extended. And then we've got People Are People live. It Doesn't Matter Too, which is a album track off of Black Celebration, but it's an instrumental version. And then we have A Question of Lust minimal. So it's been a little while since I've listened to the minimal version. I have to take a look what that was. I remember what the minimal version actually is pretty darn cool. It was remixed by Flood, and I wasn't even aware of this version because the Question of Lust minimal version was not put on the CD single on the box set that came out in the early 90s. So I didn't find out about this remix until I think early 2000s, 2004-ish, when Depeche Mode released. It was kind of like a small box set of Depeche Mode remixes over the years. So that version of A Question of Lust was on there. But it's a very cool remix. I mean, it's pretty similar to. It's kind of similar to like an extended version, but it showcases some of the bell parts, I would say. But again, this one has the 7-inch version of Question of Lust, and it tells me that they could have included the 7-inch versions of the B sides and the singles themselves on these records. But Christmas Island, it is an instrumental. I believe Al Wilder may have wrote that song, but it's one of those instrumentals that they would play at the beginning of the concerts. I believe that was used. So yeah, very cool. And then also right here, there's a special edition of A Question of Lust, which looks like this. Here is the back. But on this record, you do have the B-side, Christmas Island. I believe that's the 7-inch version. And then you've got a couple live tracks of If You Want, Shame, and Blasphemous Rumors. And I believe those live tracks probably came from the Some Great Reward tour. But let's see here. This is something I really like. There's photographs on here, and I believe these are probably from maybe the Some Great Reward tour or some touring. But there's a really cool picture of Martin from back in the day, and then Fletch, I believe that's Fletch there drinking some coffee. Or wait, yeah, that's Fletch drinking some coffee. And then we've got a photo of Dave, and it's got the lyrics of the songs. And then there's Al Wilder there. So I think those are pretty cool photos. And then the last single from Black Celebration is A Question of Time. So I'll bring that up right here. I think this is pretty cool. It's got this kind of glossy look on here. And then it's got a big old question mark on the back with this glossiness. So the tracks that we have on here are A Question of Time, extended remix by Phil Harding, who also made some really cool remixes for Erasure back in the day. And then we've got Black Celebration Live, Something to Do, and then Stripped. So those live tracks obviously are not from Some Great Reward tour. So Black Celebration Live and Stripped were recorded on April 10th, 1986. So, and then let's look at the other one. This is the other record, the special limited edition record for A Question of Time. Like I said, in Europe they released 2 versions of the records. But on the back we've got the glossiness of the question mark. And on here we've got a Newtown remix, and then live remix. Then the Black Tulip remix of Black Celebration. And then a live remix. I don't know if it's so much of a remix, but it's a live version more than a party. But the Questions of Time, those are pretty much kind of like extended versions, those remixes. Black Celebration, Black Tulip mix, I think that's a pretty cool remix. It's more of it's a extended version of Black Celebration, but if you like the song, it's pretty cool. And let's see here, what do I have? So I have some of the originals. This is, I believe, the US. Yeah, this is the US release. So I think all there isn't really anything on the US releases that are different. It's actually the European versions had some more stuff than the US. But So we've got it's here's what it looks like. This is the U.S. version. It's kind of like a double single. So you've got A Question of Time, but also you've got A Question of Lust. So both of them are basically released as one record in the U.S. But on the U.S. version, you've got Question of Time extended mix, Something to Do live, and then you've got the extended version of Question of Lust, and then Black Celebration live. So I can't remember if Black Celebration live was on the other records or not, but yeah, that's what it looked like for the U.S. And then what else? I do have an original version of the second record for A Question of Time. So, but unfortunately I don't have the cover, but it's basically what's in the box set. But one thing I did want to share that was different that came out in the U.S. I don't have the record actually, but in the U.S., instead of initially releasing Stripped as the single, they released But Not Tonight as the single without the band's knowledge. So, and it did not make the band happy. But basically, it's the cover of Stripped, but this is white. So, But Not Tonight, that version of the record is white in the U.S. So, there you go. Thank you.